The San Francisco 49ers traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders for a 5th-round pick per Adam Schefter. We do not know what year it is yet, if it's this upcoming draft or next year. And for me, my thoughts on the trade, I have no issue with it for the Washington perspective. This is a 1-year deal, essentially. He's on his final year of his deal. We're looking at right now, he's set to make $15.8 million this upcoming season, and he's an unrestricted free agent next year in 2026. It's, again, like I said, a 1-year rental, and this is, I do expect them maybe to go in the draft again, not high in the draft, but to at least maybe go and get another receiver. I know they drafted Luke McCaffrey last year. He really didn't offer too much, with only having 168 receiving yards, 0 touchdowns on 18 catches. Hopefully for their sake he steps up for that one, but outside of it, it's been abysmal. I understand why they made the trade for it, because outside of McLaurin, it is, maybe being nice about it, it's okay at best. You had Zach Ertz, who had a good season, 654 receiving yards, 7 touchdowns, was second on the team for touchdowns and second in receiving yards as well, with Deebo Samuel being there. If you want to add his stats, then he drops to third. But after that, it's nothing too crazy. Noah Brown, 453, 1 touchdown. De'Ami Brown, 308 yards receiving, 1 touchdown. You want to throw in Austin Eckler in there, 366, 0 touchdowns. You had, I'm probably going to butcher this name, I apologize. Zetchus, 500 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, which is your second best wide receiver, solely wide receiver on the team, outside McLaurin for stat wise. So it's, again, I won't say a desperate attempt, but you're bringing someone in has proven more than all these other guys. No question about that. Again, you're hoping Luke McCaffrey can take a next step, and maybe he is a bigger part of the offense in year 2 for him. But right now, I think it's a safe bet to get a stable wide receiver, who's put up solid numbers in the NFL. It's certainly not going to say this is because of how far they went this past year to the NFC Championship game, this puts them over the top now. This is like, now they can get to the Super Bowl. It's not that. It's still offering a viable weapon for Jayden Daniels in year 2. But even then, there are question marks that I do have with it. Even though I said I have no problem with it, because again, 5th round pick, I doubt you're going to, it's just a throwaway pick. You just want to try something, throw against the wall, see if it sticks. I understand that aspect of it, but there is some worry in Deebo Samuel. Ever since 2021, he hasn't been the same wide receiver. Certainly injuries has been an issue, as well as drops. This past season, he had 5 drops. You look at the receiving yards, pretty abysmal. 80 targets, 51 receptions, 670 yards, 3 touchdowns. If you do care about the rushing ability, and I don't know how much they're going to use that in Washington with Cliff Kingsbury, but he was still up there for that, because, a lot of people don't use their wide receivers like the way they use Deebo Samuel. He was first in carries, second in rushing yards, second in touchdowns. The stats aren't crazy as well, but, again, he's still used relatively high. He was first in forced missed tackles with 10, which is something you can really, hang your hat on with it. But you look at the stats, receiving-wise, again, and you can look at the rushing ability and see what he offers there, but outside of that, again, for receiving-wise, which is something that you probably should focus on more, it's, again, abysmal. Ever since 2021, 632, 892, 670. Is that worth $15 million a year? Especially if you're looking at this upcoming season? Probably not. Maybe you can somewhat make a justification for it. 2023, he did have double-digit touchdowns because he had 5 rushing touchdowns, so you can make up for that, and that's part of the aspect of the gadget play, or the gadget aspect of him, or the rushing ability he brings to that. So the stats are a little bit split up into 2 different categories. But even then, I just don't know how much he has left to really offer, truly. This past season, he only has 4 total touchdowns. With total yards, he has maybe, close to 800 total yards. So, you look at that. Is that still enough to warrant $15 million? I don't know. You could certainly say in 2023, he had over 1,000 total yards, over 10 plus touchdowns total. So you can justify what 2023 was, and they made it, that was their Super Bowl run. to the losing to the Chiefs. So he was a good option there. Not what he once was, like we talked about in 2021, but still a good option. So hopefully in that aspect, you're looking for 2023 at the very least. 800 yards, 900 yards, give you those 6-7 touchdowns. Again, they just need something viable alongside Terry McLaurin because they don't have that. There's a lot of unproven receivers that it's just, they've taken a chance on Noah Brown. They traded for it. Just, again, you look at all these aspects, and it's nothing's really working thus far outside of McLaurin and Zach Ertz. So Deebo Samuel for a 1-year deal. Again, it gives something for Jalen Daniels, add more weapons around him for year 2 and see if he can take the next step. In part, you do worry too. Hopefully, he doesn't have a C.J. Stroud sophomore season, even though that wasn't all C.J. Stroud, but he definitely took a step back in his second year. So hopefully for Jalen Daniels, he doesn't do that as well. I don't believe he will. So again, it's just adding more weapons until kind of pushing the wide receiver need maybe another year down the road, and we can worry about that in the next draft in 2026. But overall, again, I don't have an issue with this. It's a low risk, high reward. I mean, if it doesn't pan out, you give a 5th round pick, which, and at the end of the day, who were you really going to draft in the 5th round that was going to be a true difference maker? I mean, could you get lucky and get a long-term starter, a great player? Sure. I mean, everyone has the capability, the chance of doing so, but the chances of that is low. So yeah, again, I have no problem with them throwing a 5th round pick out there, bringing someone like Deebo Samuel. If they like him, maybe they extend him for another 1 to 2 year deal extension after that. Who knows? But at the very least, I think you're expecting, no doubt, bare minimum 700-800 receiving yards, if that's even possible. 5 to 7 touchdowns. I think if you'll take that all day long. If, let's say, you just hypothetical, bumping this up, maybe over 700, 6 touchdowns. I mean, if you're just doing that, I think that right there, that's may not be crazy numbers, but they again looking for someone else outside McLaurin. I think you take that, at least for that 1 year option. Is that worth $15 million? Probably not, but for this case with Jalen Daniels on a rookie contract and them having the money, you can afford to overpay for a receiver like this. It's not like we're talking about Buffalo or Kansas City or one of these teams that are a little bit more cap stricken. That this is that's a huge chance to take, like a wide receiver making that much money when you don't have that lot of cap space to begin with. For Washington, they certainly have that. So if it all burns in flames in front of them, it's $15 million. They have the money to do so. Why not take the chance? So no problem whatsoever for the Washington Commanders taking a 1 year risk on him. For the 49ers perspective, without stating the obvious of him wanting out, this is kind of setting up for me, in my opinion, the money-wise for Brock Purdy. I mean, there's no question about that. There's even still talks about maybe getting rid of Brandon Ayuk, which is a whole different discussion. I don't want to get into too much about that. The whole thing about getting that contract that this past offseason and then now trading him again. I mean, it's bizarre. But for Deebo Samuel, this is kind of, again, just setting up the money to have at least to help pay for Brock Purdy with, if you believe the Spot Track projected money per year, with him almost making $60 million a year, which is absurd. No question about that. It's insane. But again, another discussion for a different video I already made. So again, for both sides, I mean, if you're talking about for grading wise, I think this is probably a B for Washington, and maybe a C- for San Francisco. I understand the move because, again, it's just him getting up there in age, injuries, the drops as well, and the money. I understand why he moved off of him. For the 5th round pick, this is probably the best he can get, but still, it's just the San Francisco, of course, wanted more out of this. So I mean, overall, I don't think it's not horrible for the 49ers. I understand why they had to do it, to free up money elsewhere for Brock Purdy, who else you want to call it. Maybe this just helps move up Pascal, the rookie they drafted last year, into the wide receiver 2 in a much bigger role, and hopefully he can step up and take a huge jump forward in his sophomore season as well. We'll see with that, but again, overall, I have no issue with Washington taking a chance on a 1 year deal with Deebo Samuel, and I'm going to be very interested to see how he plays alongside Terry McLaurin, Jane Daniels, and what Cliff Kingsbury schemes up for him.